Guys, in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 more facts about my 1972 Z28 Camaro. You'll want to stick around to the end of the video because we're also going to talk about the Rally Sport front end option and how it relates to the Z28 when they are combined. Stick around. So guys, last week we put out a video called 10 Facts to Identify a Real 1972 Z28. That video actually produced a lot of views and it also produced a lot of questions. This is a follow-up of that video. I want to give you some more details about the car, and I also want to talk about some mid-year changes that a lot of people may not know about. So the question arose about the gas pedal that was in the 1972 Z28. Previous years, 70 and 71, there was a gas pedal that was mounted to the floor, and it was only in the Z28 model. However, in 1972, they started with the actual hanging gas pedal that mounted to the firewall. Here's a picture of it in the assembly manual, and you can see how all that bolts together. Now the gas pedal for my 72 is actually put up, but I will post a picture of it right here. Now the unique thing about the one for the 72, this car actually has a Turbo 400 automatic transmission, and you'll find that the kickdown switch is mounted to the top of the gas pedal bracket. Okay, so if we go back to the cal tag on Project OverKill, we can look at that number there to the left, and we see that it says 12B. And I'll explain to you what that is for this car. Project OverKill's date code is 12B, and that means that it was built the second week of December 1971. So these cars would have been produced from August 1971 all the way up to April 1972. After that, there is no more 72s because of the strike, and that happened April the 7th, 1972 until September the 27th, 1972. It was a 174-day strike, and it resulted in the fewest number of Z28s being built that year. Typically, GM would introduce their mid-year changes around January, and I find it very fascinating that Project OverKill is a 12B car because it's right in that mid-year era. And that's what I want to talk to you right now about, is some of the mid-year changes that you would see on a 72. So the first change I want to talk to you a little bit about is on the rear view mirrors. Now you can see this one is black on the back, and you can definitely see the front of it showing its age with the brown and everything around the side of the mirror. This one's pretty much junk. In late 71, you would have had the stainless steel backing, and even in early 72s, I have seen the stainless steel backing as well. However, by mid-year, by the 12B cars, usually they're black. And that's about sometime or another when the change went through. So, and I have verified these black mirrors on several 12B cars. And I think that's one of the changes that's kind of overlooked on these models. The next change I want to talk to you about is about the seat belts. In mid-year, they rolled out a 3-point harness belt. And I'll show you a borrowed picture from the Nasty Z28 Club here, and you can definitely see how the shoulder harness basically hooks into the lap belt, creating a 3-point harness. This was a mid-year change. It would have been sometime after January, I do believe. I know from the 12B cars and earlier, they would have still had the traditional seat belts that you would have found in the 71 models. So leading up to the mid-year change, what you would find would be basically a 2-buckle system for the passenger seat and the driver's seat. You would basically have this particular seat belt that would be on the door side of the car, and your lap belt would just come over and buckle into it. Now you would also have a shoulder belt that would come down and buckle into one of these other buckles. And when these type of belts were not being used, they would be stowed in the pockets that were in the console of the 72 model. Things also changed with the upper shoulder belt as far as the way they were stored. This is basically a seatbelt storage holder that's to the right side, and it would go along the trim of the headliner, and basically your belt would just fold up over it. Now, I don't have the shoulder belts for my 72, but this is a set that is really worn, that is earlier, and you can see it has the elastic strap, and that strap would actually go up and fold and hook into a hook versus being stowed in this plastic housing. So this is typically what you'll find on a 12B car. And then in the earlier models, you would find this shoulder strap here. And if anybody has a shoulder strap that would be correct for the 12B car, I'm in need of two. Like I said, I have these, but man, these are rough. The tag is missing, and it's just pretty rough. But I do have these two for the car, but got to find something a little bit better. The seat belts that I do have that are really nice are dated to the car, and you can definitely see here, the tag here says 47A 71. So that puts it as a late year 71, which would be correct for a 72 built in December of 1971. My car is actually, even though I'm a 72 model as well, my car is actually a little older than I am, but it's on the way back, and we're restoring it, one piece at a time right here on YouTube. So guys, I want to give a huge shout out to the guys over at NastyZ28.com. A lot of those guys have been a huge help to me. Some of them I've become really good friends with. They've also got the 12B cars, and they really helped me with Project OverKill here to decide what's authentic and what was not. So continuing on with the seatbelt changes in 1972 mid-year, your early 72 cars all the way up at least probably mid-December for sure, and maybe a little bit later, the lower dash would have changed. This particular dash is the one I have for Project OverKill. And one thing you'll notice that's different from it or a later 72 model or 73, you'll notice there's no fasten seatbelt light here. It's just like the previous years, the 70 and the 71. And it wasn't till that mid-year change that you started seeing the fasten seatbelt light here. There were a lot of changes with the seatbelt system starting in mid-72. The next topic I want to talk to you about may be a little controversial. It may not be, but still I want to bring it up because I've seen so many with the different emblems. In 1972, the short spoiler went away. There was no short spoiler in 72. You just got the tall, the three-piece spoiler, and on the emblem for the back of that spoiler, you would have got the decal. And this is the Z28 decal. You see, just a sticker. And I actually bought this years ago. And even here in the assembly manual, you can see that number 6 there. If you go over to the number 6 footnote, it says decal RPO Z28. So the assembly manual shows the decal. Basically, from the research that I've done, all your short spoiler cars, which would have been prior to 72, would have got the emblem. But when it comes to the tall spoilers, on 72 would have just been the decal. Now in earlier years, say 1970, I have seen the emblem on those spoilers. But like I said, most of everything in 72 is the decal. And I've even seen where guys say that in 71 that their tall spoiler had the emblem. So I honestly think if it did, it was probably around late 71 that they started actually implementing the decal. I can't be for certain on that date, but just from my experience, that's what I've been finding out. But this 12B car would have definitely had the decal. And I noticed on the car that Dennis Collins bought several months ago that that car also had the decal. Not sure of the build date of that car, though. I'd have to do some more research to figure out what the build date was. I don't know if they said in the video or not. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Like I said, this topic here is always controversial, but I do like the emblem a little bit better than I like the decal, but the decal is correct. So guys, let's talk a little bit about the iconic Rally Sport front end that was available on these cars. You'll notice it's got the 2 split bumpers on it, and some people actually refer to any 70 to 73 car as a split bumper Camaro. That term is used fairly loosely. We done a video a few years back and it was titled Rally Sport or Split Bumper, and I will put that video in the description below. So I got a comment on last week's video that said I had the wrong front end on the car for it to be a Z28, and that's not necessarily true. So this front end is what you would call the Rally Sport front end. It's got the iconic split bumpers on it, as well as this big grille area. Now there's one piece missing on this car that I don't have on it. It's actually up here on the shelf, but it is the Rally Sport nose. We'll go into the garage right now and I want to show you some pictures of what a complete Rally Sport Camaro looks like, and I want to show you some pictures of what the standard front end Camaro looks like as well. So hopefully I'm getting this without the glare from the fluorescent lights, but you can see in this photo, this is what a complete Rally Sport front end would look like. And you can also see that that particular car has Z28 badges as well. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a few minutes. But the main thing that I want you to realize is basically the headlamps and the park lamps. The park lamps there are above the bumper, and you've got that huge opening there, grill opening, and that Endura nose that actually protrudes past the bumpers. Then you've got that chrome urethane surround that sets back in that area with the grills. This is also another picture of a Rally Sport front end. Again, you can see the park lights are up above the bumper beside the headlamps. And that's actually what that front end looks like when it's complete. This particular car is a 12B car. It's also a Z28, and it's a standard front end car. This particular car happens to belong to a man named Chuck, and I had the privilege of meeting him several years ago at the Carlisle, Pennsylvania show. One of the things you'll notice about the standard front end, obviously, you've got the full bumper, but then if you'll notice here, the grille sets flush with the upper header and lower valance. And then you'll notice these park lights, we call these banana lights, but you'll notice that they're under the headlight. And you also notice that car is a Z28, and it's a full bumper car. Now where the confusion comes into play at is when people actually remove the full bumper. And then they take the two bumperettes and they install them on a standard front end. And to most people, this is called a split bumper. That's what they refer to it as, because they just recognize the two small bumpers. They don't really understand about the banana lights or the Rally Sport park lights, and they don't really get that it's a complete, totally different setup. And you know, some people like that look. I'm not knocking this car at all. It's a beautiful car, but I believe that's where the confusion comes in at. And you know, I'm just using this photo as demonstration purposes only. You know, most of your purists for the Rally Sport don't really like this look. I'm not against it. I mean, I really like this car that I'm showing you. But it does look funny when you're standing in front of it in person, because you just don't have this area protruding out like you normally would have on a Rally Sport car. So how does the Rally Sport option correlate with the Z28 option? Well, you could get just your basic Rally Sport option and the car would have its own Rally Sport badges. But you could get just a plain Jane Rally Sport Camaro, or you could get the Rally Sport option combined with the Z28 option. The only difference would be that the Z28 badging would supersede the Rally Sport badging. So basically the Rally Sport badging would go away and you would just have the Z28 badging. So guys, I appreciate you coming back into the garage and us talking about some more facts about the 72 Z28. It's been a lot of fun. I'd like to encourage you to subscribe if you hadn't, and also ring the bell. That way you're always notified of what's going on here in the garage. We got a lot more videos coming. There's a bug in here. We got a lot more videos to come. I think I got him.